What's going on, guys? Happy Wednesday. Mike Norris here to talk to you today about the importance of IT in marketing. And for that, I have brought my good friend Frank Sarnelli, who is our senior network administrator here at Youtech, or as we call him, ITelder on Slack. It was previously ITninja, but he has since upgraded. So congrats on the new role. Why don't you give us a little bit of an overview of your domain, your realm, everything that you take control of here, so that all the viewers kind of know what to expect.
Yeah, sure. Hey guys. So I mostly maintain all the computers here, obviously. Internally, anyone who ever has a problem or has a question, they come ask me for help. Outside of that, I also maintain all of our clients' websites that we host on our servers. And if they host elsewhere, if they need support with anything, I always can hop on a call with them and take care of their issue. Keeping things secure in-house, any automation that needs to get done for like redundant processes or any way to streamline our business flows, I'm the person to talk to. So
anything breaks, I go to Frank, basically. And so does everyone else. So thanks for taking the time.
Yeah.
So let's start it off then. Let's talk about marketing. Obviously, marketing is such a broad subject, but the IT side of marketing, I think, often gets overlooked. And one of the most important things that we've come to find through our experience with our clients is site speed and just the importance of that. So can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, site speed is massively important. The biggest factors with that is going to be the content that gets downloaded to your browser. So if your website has a ton of images on it or even loads video sometimes, there's some tools out there you can use to like shrink those files down, like compression for images, or there's one that we use in-house personally called Smush. It's part of a suite of tools. Yep. And outside of trying to bring the content down, you need to also shrink up your JavaScript files and your CSS files. And lots of times that does get overlooked because they're so small from the start, but every little bit you can squeeze out of it matters. Outside of that, the other thing that can really help with site speed is caching. So caching in general means every time you request a page, so you go to youtechagency.com, it's going to ask to grab all those assets, pull all those images, run all the code that needs to run to put everything together to build the page and download it to your browser. Well, if nothing's really changing on the homepage, it's always loading the same images, always running the same code, it doesn't need to do that every time. So what your server will do is just grab a static version of that page and grab that file instead of running the code over and over again. So it really saves on your server resources. And since everything's pre-built and ready to rock, it just downloads it directly to your browser. Now there's caveats with that though. So typically,
always is, right?
Always is. And most of the time, probably the number one thing I'll ask someone first when they come up to me and say, hey, I changed something on the site and I'm not seeing the change, is clear your cache.
Of course.
Most times, your browser will hang on to a cache file for, it could be a couple hours, could be a couple weeks, could even be a couple months, depending on what you have it set to. So it's always important to know when to clear your cache and have your settings set up to blow it away at appropriate times.
Any quick recommendation on what a good timeline is on the cache as far as how long it should store it?
Yeah, if it's stuff that's not really ever changing, so again, like the homepage, you could probably set that to be for, I think Google recommends like 90 days, something along that time period. But if it's like a blog site, like on your posts or like a category page that holds a bunch of recent posts, that's changing all the time. So you only might really need it for like an hour or two.
Okay.
Help out with the site.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
So once you've got them coming there and you've got them coming there quickly, security is always kind of the next big thing. And obviously with privacy laws and all that, there's a ton of data. Some people have credit card information floating around. What's really, how do you keep everything safe, first of all?
Yeah, I mean, the originators of the internet, had a different name for Triple W. It wasn't World Wide Web. It was the Wild Wild West. Anything can happen out there on the internet. And in fact, I mean, today more than ever, There's constantly a bombardment of bots out there that are always picking and probing your website, trying to find any kind of hole where they can exploit, inject code, try to break in any way, shape, or form. So it's super, super important to stay on top of security and make sure your site is using certificates as like one of the big ones. It's probably the easiest thing you can do to lock down your site. So with certificates, specifically talking about SSL, the little green lock on the top left of your browser, it says HTTPS. That there, all it's doing is it's creating a certificate for your site, so that way when you when clients request content from your server, it's all encrypted. So it's jumbled up nonsense if someone in the middle is trying to listen in on what's going on. So if you're running a website that's not using HTTPS, potentially if there's a middleman between your browser and the server you're trying to access, they can see all your stuff in plain text. I can see exactly what Michael's been, if watching or trying to download if he's going to a non-secure website. But pretty much all of the internet nowadays is HTTPS, and it's super simple now. So when SSL first came out, it was super expensive, and only a handful of companies were able to sign off and verify, yes, these are legit certificates, and they would be like $300, $400. But now you can request still verified certs. They're not super strong, but they last for 90-day periods and they're free. So what a lot of people have done now, and what we do, is we have a little robot that just checks our servers every once in a while, every 2 months, and just renews all the certificates for it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. What about hosting? What would you say is the importance of hosting in marketing? Because from my limited marketing knowledge of the hosting world, I know a lot of names get tossed around a lot, AWS being one of them. And I know that through what you've explained to me, they've got elasticity, where if you're a site that is getting, I'll let you explain it actually. You're dropping me. So
I mean, you can try, but yeah. So there's a lot of different ways you can host. So it really depends on what kind of site are you planning on building and what kind of content are you going to host on it. So if it's just a small little personal blog site, you could probably definitely get away with like just hopping on GoDaddy, going to A2 hosting or InMotion. Really don't need anything crazy or big. And a lot of their GUIs are super simple to use and very much like, hey, I just want this, check, and it's built and ready to go.
Okay.
Where it gets more complicated, like with Youtech being a multi-client agency, we have different demands, different needs all the time for different clients. So we need something that's more open. So with a tool that's easier to use, it's more restricted because you can only stay inside their framework. With AWS, you can write your own custom scripts to fire up, 100 boxes that will all run this one website, or 50 boxes, or one box. It all depends on how you set it up. So what Mike was trying to say with elasticity is when certain demand comes in, let's say 3 o'clock in the middle of the night, no one's on your website because it's most of your customers are US based, let's say. So your traffic's pretty low. So the amount of servers that need to run that site can go down to like 2 or 3. But in prime time, let's say your site is a restaurant, it's a lunchtime restaurant. So at noon to 3, it's maxed out. Then it will spawn up to 100 boxes. And AWS's pricing model is very on-demand based, almost by the hour. So if you use 100 boxes in that 3-hour period, you don't need to keep 100 boxes running all the time, even at 3 in the morning when no one's on your site. So that's where it can help you save on cost.
Got it. And it can also help by not bottlenecking traffic, right?
Exactly.
Where you're getting the benefits of all that site speed stuff we talked about previously because your server response time is quick. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right. And you don't have to wait for clients to call and say, hey, my site's slow. What the heck? And then, you have to hop on AWS and spawn more boxes. It can all be done automatically for you, which is nice.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Any last words? Anything else just with regard to IT and marketing? Anything people look or
Yeah, I mean,
It's okay.
also in regards to hosting with elasticity, I mean, it's also super important. You know, you have backups of everything. That's probably the worst thing that could probably happen to you is, you know, it gets hacked, and you know, the host that you're on doesn't do automatic backups, so the only answer you have is to kind of rebuild or, you know, something along those lines, which is pretty terrible. And also redundancy. I mean, it's crazy to think that, you know, in a world of the cloud now, it's everything's available. You can grab a site on demand, but there's a good chance that, you know, some natural disaster could happen and knock out a whole data center or a whole region. And you know, if your site happens to live in that area and it isn't backed up somewhere else, it could be gone. So it's also super important to make sure if you're running in the cloud to have your site live in multiple physical locations in case it happens.
Wow, yeah. That's something I never think
People
about.
overlook. You got hurricanes out on the East Coast, you got fires on the West Coast, and tornadoes in the middle. So,
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much, Frank. This has been incredibly enlightening for me, and I'm sure it's been for other people as well. So appreciate your time today.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Happy Wednesday.